Hi there, YouTube. Thanks for joining us for the Stratosphere Lounge. Let's grab our friends over at Twitch, where we actually record the show on our own little drive here. So we'll start that recording, and we'll do that. And there they are. Yeah, hey, Ray, welcome, Twitcheroos, to the Stratosphere Lounge. I'm your host, Bill Whittle. It is Thursday, the 19th of December. We had a show on Monday night where we did the long-promised Stratosphere telethon. I was hoping to raise some money, but turns out we didn't raise a single dime. I think this might have something to do with the fact that the telethon, at least as I envisioned it, was just the Stratosphere Studio logo broadcast for 19 hours. I thought that would have been more than enough to drive, significant amount of traffic. But it was an absolute utter failure, and I'm brutally disappointed. So, turns out I streamed for 19 hours for nothing. Hour and a half of which was content like this, and then the screen. They told me if I just run the screen for 19 hours, that would be a telethon. And yeah. So if you haven't figured it out yet, I turned off the. I went to the Stratosphere logo, and left the stream on Twitch and YouTube for 19 hours. Just let it stream, because I didn't hit the end button because I don't like cutting people off in the comments. I usually try to leave it run for a minute or two on the screen, and then it's like, okay, then turn it off. But from now on, it's going to be ruthless. From now on, to avoid that kind of embarrassment, I am going to be just ruthlessly chopping off that stream. The second I say good night and we go to the screen, I'm cutting the stream and get your goodbyes in early, or else you're not going to get them. Yeah, Alex Hooper says he watched every second. Hope it was monetized. No. Turns out that yet another great idea down the drain. Speaking of great ideas, didn't go down the drain exactly. Didn't perform quite as well as I was hoping. I was going to do a hot mic on Joe Biden's pardons, and I put together a number of graphics. Barack Obama's pardoned 1,425 people, something like that. Biden had pardoned something like over 8,063 at last count or something. So I put together the whole thing, and I was going to do this Joe Biden's Crazy Joe's discount pardon warehouse sort of as an advertisement that I would run at the beginning of a regular hot mic show, and I'd talk for about 10 minutes or so. And then I finished it late at night, like around 3 in the morning, and I figured, I don't know if there's really much more about this that I can really say. So let's just run it and see how it does, at a minute 42. Just run the gag, see how it goes. So let me just get a little bit of that out of the frame here. Just that light's halfway through. There we go. And it turns out it did okay. It's 7,000 views. Not great. I was kind of hoping somebody might pick it up because I was having a lot of fun with it. Marusha says, I noticed you've been posting them early a.m. Eastern Standard Time. What I've been doing is normally what we've been doing in the past was posting them at 6 a.m. Pacific Time, which is 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Well, we've been doing that for years. And then there was something, I forgot I've got some pictures of Bean. Yes, I didn't bring them, but I've got them. So thanks for reminding me. Mark, let me bring up my photo thing so I don't forget it. I'll come back to this in a minute and finish up this story real quick. So the thing of it is I would do it at 6 a.m. Pacific, which is 9 Eastern, obviously. And then I did a couple that I really just wanted to see, and so I posted them on YouTube when I finished them, which is usually around, anywhere between 8 and midnight Pacific Time, which is, pretty early Eastern Time. But what I ended up finding out was when I'd wake up in the morning, there'd already be a significant number of views, and I kind of liked seeing how the thing was doing. I don't know whether the time it premieres affects the number of views. I wouldn't think that it would. I mean, people are either going to find it, it's going to show up on their subscription thing or not. I wouldn't think that it would make a difference whether you post it at, well, let's just say for the sake of it, midnight Eastern or 9 Eastern. It just seemed to me that earlier was better, especially when you've got something that's on the news cycle. So I've been doing that pretty much consistently because I really like posting it and then getting to see in the morning how the thing's doing, and we have a pretty good idea what the trajectory is going to be, fairly early. Picture of Bean. Hang on a second. Get a good one. It's not bad. It's a little hard to see there. He's against a fuzzy background. Let me find a better one. So now if anybody knows if there's if I'm wrong about that, I mean, if it turns out no, I found out that the peak posting time would be for during the week would be at either I think they said between 9 and 11 a.m. on Sunday. Is like the ideal posting time. So obviously, I guess posting time does make a difference. I just haven't paid too much attention to it, Oh, there's our boy Pismo, who I miss so much. He was such a great cat, that Pismo. Hang on, still looking here. It's just easier this way than going to my phone. I know I must have one on the machine here somewhere. So anyway, yeah, it was a lot of fun to do, and it got me thinking about a bunch of fun things that could be done with this AI stuff. I could have conversations between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and that would be kind of cool. Here we go. Hang on. Yeah, again, I'm gonna find a better picture here. He's a celebrity cat now, so we got to get a flattering image. I know I've got some good pictures on the phone. Let's see if I can find one on the computer here. And he's doing fine for an older gentleman, I was at the doctor's today, back again for a follow-up with a hematologist who I actually called my GP to get a bit more detail about the results of my MRI. But I talked to him yesterday on the phone for a couple of minutes, and he sounded kind of angry. Not angry, just annoyed. And annoyed is a much better term. Well, that's a wild picture of Bean. It almost looks nothing like him, but it's wild. He kind of treated it, just kind of sounded like I was, kind of guy who calls all the time with, the latest, I got a weird, sensation in my stomach or whatever. So it was kind of frustrating because, when somebody says you need to go in for a brain MRI, it gets your attention. And then when they say, yeah, we've got some anomalies there that we don't really understand yet, that gets your attention further. So I'm going to stop looking for this in a second here, believe me. And then we can get on with the show. That'll work. So this is Bean. Whoa, big. Hang on there, YouTube. I'm working on it. Yeah, let me just scale it down a little bit more. He's a good boy. A very famous internet cat now. That's Bean. Hang on there, YouTubers. Come on. There he is. He's a good dude. He's just an excellent cat, is what he is. Yeah. That's Peanut. He has my hair. Yes, he's got my whiskers. His whiskers are in particularly good shape in this picture. He often looks like like his whiskers exploded. Yeah, he's got kind of mutton chops. He's a cool dude. He's a really cool. He's a distinguished gentleman. He looks like the world's most interesting cat. So thanks for asking. Uh, so anyway, as I was saying, I'll just picture here. And we'll come back to the other long whiskered. There we go. Yeah. So anyway, I went down and spoke with a hematologist who I hadn't seen before, and she was terrific. She did what my general practitioner was supposed to do and didn't do, and that is she sat down with me for half an hour and went over the results of both the neck MRI and the brain MRI. So the neck MRI is fine. There were these sensitivity in here, and he was concerned about swollen lymph nodes. I don't know if I mentioned that before. I didn't see any reason to go, dumping all of this stuff everywhere, and just try to keep it to myself as much as I can, unless it affects the show and stuff. But yeah, so we went for that. So that was a whole potential set of symptoms, swollen lymph nodes, and then the eye incident, and so we were checking to see if there was anything funny growing. So it turns out there's not. And then we sat down and thank you very much, Benjamin. That's a very nice thing to say. I've thought about that many times. I'm not going to repeat that, but it's a very kind comment, and I very, very much appreciate it. So anyway, here we go. So I sat, yeah, but I've got black eyes, like a doll's eyes. They're positively black. You get real close to them, they're actually brown, but they're dark, 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 dark brown. Okay, so here's the latest on the medical issues, and then we'll move on and announce the big news for the night. So we took a look at the with somebody who speaks medicalese, and turns out there's two abnormalities. One of them is a little further back. I forget the name of the condition. It's not much. It's where capillaries get a little bit enlarged, and sometimes they grow together, grow into each other a little bit, and that's sent back a return. But that is, most people don't ever get them detected. You could be completely asymptomatic for your whole life, and as you get older and older, more of these things start to develop in your brain. So there was that. The other one is a little more concerning. It's not terribly concerning. There's a somewhat enlarged capillary, small brain in small brain is right. There's a slightly enlarged area where the small veins in the brain are a little bigger than they should be, and so I said, okay, so is this something I need to worry about? She said, it's not something you need to worry about, but it's something you need to take seriously. I said, that's beautifully put. I completely get it. So what the basis is now is that right now it's not an issue. I said, do I need to be worried about this? I mean, do I need to be concerned about heavy lifting, or should I be, should I have a backup driver in the car or anything? No, it's nothing like that yet. It says it can enlarge to the point where if it continues to enlarge and gets significantly larger than it is now, then we would look at that as a precursor to a stroke. But it's not that significant yet. So you need to keep an eye on it. So what I recommend is that you do. I do have brain rot, literal brain rot, Eric. Thank you for your kindness and your concern, and especially your sensitivity towards my non-existent anxieties on this issue. No, but seriously, so you need to keep an eye on it. You probably should get an MRI every 6 months. And I think skibbity Bill, yeah, skibbity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to schedule. I've got to go back down for one more test, and then I'm going to schedule an MRI for 4 months, and we'll have a look at it in 4 months. And if it's any bigger, then we'll deal with that then. If it stays the same size and we keep an eye on it, probably end up doing it once a year just to make sure there's no problems. But if it gets bigger, then I said, is there a surgical solution to this? And one of the reasons I was asking if there's a surgical solution was I wanted to see if I could sneakily sneakily signal whether or not it's operable or not. Because when you hear things like inoperable brain problem, it's like, I don't like the sound of that. She said, no. To be clear, what is it? It is an enlarged small vein in the brain. All of the arteries and everything else are healthy. All the big veins are healthy, and there's tons of them. Just massive brain with these huge throbbing veins. Just even the MRI machine they had to like zoom out when they did the MRI on the it distorted the magnetic fields. And actually, I've heard anecdotally that I broke the MRI machine, that it couldn't handle it. There's too much processing going on, and the MRI machine has not been the same since then. Been out of balance. It's been ensmalled. He says it's better than an ensmalled large vein in the brain. Well, technically speaking, that's what to be perfectly honest with you, it is an ensmalled vein. It's probably caused by a little bit of blockage, and that's causing it to be a little bigger than it should be. But right now it's fine. It's nothing to worry about. I'm gonna reduce my lipid intake, and I am apparently pre-diabetic, which I'm going to solve with eating less sugar. As I mentioned when I first mentioned the recent health issues, they said you need to pretty much cut back or cut out sugar, saturated fats, and what was the third thing? See, mind is going already. Sugar, saturated fats, and it was something delicious. Anyway, and I said that's my entire diet. So I'll take a lot of that out. It wasn't cholesterol. No, it was something delicious. Salt. It was salt. Sugar, saturated fats, and salt. You need to cut back on those things. And I remember thinking, that's all I eat is sugar, saturated fats, and salt. Especially the salt and sugar. McDonald's side of fries and a chocolate milkshake. It's like, what's the point of living? What's the point of living? Yes, like a Telosian. Sorry, I didn't catch that earlier. Andrew Delay over there on YouTube. So anyway, fun news is I can just walk it back. I don't think I have to completely cut it, but I definitely need to walk it back. The main thing I really need is more exercise, honestly. So I just wish there was an exercise pill that I could take. Triglycerides are a little elevated, but they're not crazy high. I went, I had a blood draw done, I don't know, a year ago or something, right after I ate some kind of lunch or something like that. And my triglycerides came back as like 675. And something, it's like over 200 is like worrisome or something. It was just something crazy. Might want to start by taking what you eat now and switching to organic equivalent. Big difference between McDonald's and homemade cheeseburger. Yeah, we've got McDonald's at home, Marusha. I don't go to McDonald's a lot. That's more of a snack kind of thing on odd occasions. I usually just have one fairly big meal a day. Christopher Galzett wants to know what I thought about Star Trek Unification. I can tell you about that, but I'm looking. Where's Lapco? Is Lapco here? He's got to be. Surely there must be a Lapco here somewhere. Don't cut all salt. A friend of mine had to go into the hospital because her sodium level was so low her brain started to shut down. I don't think I'm in any danger of that because I put salt on my salt. Sometimes it's not salty enough, the salt, so I just extra. But to be fair, so yeah, it's probably just it's not so much the nutrition. It's not rotting from the inside. It's rotting from the stuff that's coming in from outside the grains. There you go. Okay. Okay. I'm about to do another hot mic on this cancellation of the continuing resolution, which Elon Musk had a fair amount to do with. The salted pork is particularly good. And he better not have died on me. That's all I have to say about LAPCO. Uh, that's all I. That's all. I'm just going to leave it there. Um, yeah, the salted pork. Yeah, so I'm going to do a little look at what actually happened, because what actually happened. There's a. I'd heard that the replacement bill did pass, but the replacement bill is only good until the 20th of December. The other thing was going to continue until March. It was filled with pork, and so my hot mic is called "When Pork Flies," and below that it says 7,000 BC to December 19th, 2024. It's a history of pork, um, and there's a fair chance that this entire idea of pork and especially the idea of hiding things in the budget may have come to an end today. Uh, so I'm going to go and look at the history of pork going back to 7,000 BC. This is the kind of thing that I do. Because handing out favors and subsidies and all of this stuff has been here since we've had cities and agriculture. And during the Industrial Revolution, the second age, in the second age of man, we had this massive growth of the federal government, and the gatekeepers were also massive, centralized, extremely expensive structures like network news, mainstream media. Cost billions of dollars to get a network up, and this forms a priesthood that determines what we're supposed to think and so on. But on December 19th, 2024, which is still on the table as we record this, that same night, something unique happened, and what happened was the third wave information age killed pork, killed a pork bill, and did it almost in real time. It Oh, I didn't know that. Roger Ramjet says, I've changed my opinion on AI. I'm for it now that it went through a 1,500-page bill and pointed out all of the crap. I didn't know that AI went through it, but see, the whole point of this is you're not supposed to. Not only are you not supposed to read what's in these continuing resolutions, you're not supposed to read what's in a bill that passes Congress. It's important that you don't understand it. They're written so that you don't understand it. Obamacare was something like 9 or 10 feet from floor to ceiling of 9 to 10 feet of pages. It wasn't 100 pages, 1,000 pages, 15,000, 20,000 pages. It was insane, and no one had read it. It was impossible to read. Some congressman claimed that he read the whole thing, and somebody said if you read 24 hours a day, the Obamacare bill, if you read it 24 hours a day nonstop, it would take you 14 months or something like that, right? And that's assuming it was readable. It's all impenetrable gobbledygook. Everybody pitches a little bit into the pot, and then they assemble it, and they call that a bill. And they're simply, it's not a representative republic. If people are voting on, if people are voting on stuff they don't understand. Now, people are saying that Fox reported that the bill failed. The big continuing resolution, the one that would have been funding through March, failed. What I saw an hour ago was that a stopgap measure to keep the paychecks rolling through Christmas through December 20th passed. But the big one failed. Yeah, I did this on the virtual presidency. In fact, on the first episode of the virtual presidency, I talked about bills. Marisha is commenting. Other people, needless to say, have commented on one item, one bill. You don't get an omnibus bill that includes military spending plus, $250,000 for the, Southern Santa Monica Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Project. What I said in my thing was not only was that it had to be each bill had to be about one thing and one thing only. The title of the bill had to accurately reflect what was in the bill, and the bill could not be any longer than 4,440 words because that is the length of the U.S. Constitution. I may have got that number wrong from memory, but I'm pretty sure it's 4,440. I said, look, if you can't pass a single law in fewer words than it takes to describe the operation of the United States' entire government, then the bill is too long. 1,440 words is a preamble for most of this stuff. So what we actually did is we sent pigs, when pigs fly, right? Pigs flew today. Pork flew today. And Elon Musk has a lot to do with it. He basically, my understanding of how it happened is when they, just at the last minute, I mean, the bill was to be voted on today and it looked like it was going to pass. And then Elon pumps out, 12 tweets in an hour saying this is garbage, you got to vote for it. Every single telephone in Washington rings, and all of a sudden these guys are facing not the pay raise that they'd voted themselves that was hidden in this bill, but you're going to 4,487? Okay. Then not only are you not going to get your raise, you're going to be out of a job. There were reports that they were threatening them with we're preparing this guy to primary you if you vote for this thing. Scared the piss out of these Congress critters, and so it was rejected, and it was rejected because of technology. It was technology saved us from this monumental waste and garbage, and this is the third age. This may have been the end of pork as we understand it. And I really think that's why the media is saying President Musk. Well, they're pissed off because President Musk didn't just do an end run around Congress. He did an end run around the flanks of the mainstream media, who have never reported on this kind of pork and this kind of, unless it's a Republican who they particularly hate. So yes, Lapco made it at last. Hooray! What a strange day to be tardy. We're just talking about the continuing resolution that was defeated and how it's a bit of a Christmas miracle, and I think we'll be seeing this nonstop in the future. I'll tell you why the mainstream media and the politicians, but mainly the mainstream media, are so upset about this, is because this is an example that that the people can be informed and be notified about what's going on behind the curtain, and then the people call in and they're upset about this, and then there is no more behind the curtain tomfoolery, and that is the end of their iron race bowl. They are not happy about this, which makes me extremely happy about this. So, there you go. John Pershing, scared. That's how I like my representatives. Exactly. Ace Effendi wants to know what about the people who voted Boo Earns? I voted Boo Earns. I said Boo Earns. Hans Moleman. Poor Hans never gets. He deserves it. He deserves everything he gets. So in other big news, aside from the latest medical update, which is a non-event, and the picture of Bean, which you missed, that's an interesting point. Vorpal Bunny says, any interest in an Apple Watch? Mine saved my life with its crash detection calling EMS. I really like that idea, and I have to tell you, I was slack-jawed. I was William the Slack-Jaw yokel when I found out that it does not detect heart attacks. How is that possible? They just does not. The Apple Watch does not detect heart attacks. It measures your pulse. I have an app that measures the intervals between my heartbeats and tells me what my stress levels are, which are apparently unrecordable. But how does it not able to detect a heart attack, for God's sakes? That would be actually useful. If the thing were to call EMS if you were having a heart attack, they can't legally say that you're having a heart attack. B. Durant says it does with certain apps. Now, if it turns out that it can, then I would seriously think about an Apple Watch. I like this watch because it's very, very small and thin. It's really slim watch. I've had it since 2010. wafer thin, as you can see. So anyway, oh, it does detect AFib. I'll tell you, I really need to get it. Oh, by the way, this woman, hematologist, was looking at my hemoglobin and some other things, and she asked me if I snore, and I do, and she said, you may need to go in for a sleep test. I had a sleep test back in 2008, I want to say. Hooked me up with all these wires, checking for sleep apnea, didn't find it. But I think, to my horror, it's one of the things I'm actually most really embarrassed about it, and that is that I apparently snore like a freight train. So Marusha just read the quote about how it can't do the detection of a full heart attack because it doesn't have the dual leads and so on. Try the breath-right strips. I will. One snore only, Vasily. Anyway, yeah, and a lot of people are saying, Lapka is saying Apple may not want the medical liability for health and so on. I just think that it'd be nice if it said, hey. It'd be nice if Clippy, I know that's maybe I need to get an Android because maybe it's the Apple issue, but maybe I need an Android watch or something where Clippy comes up and says, looks like you're having a heart attack. Doesn't actually call or anything, just kind of comes up and just says, looks like you're having a heart attack. Do you want help? And then you can say yes. John Eden for $100, $99.99 super chat. Again, thank you, John. Thank you so much. It's just very astonishing of you, and we're very, very grateful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Aesop's Retreat says, hey, try these. Okay, we got a link here. I'll click the link. I'll keep that open afterwards. Oh, man. These things look like... I've seen magnetic ones that open your... But, yeah, okay, I'll try them. Absolutely. I'll keep that open. Thank you for all the suggestions. So anyway, there is some earth-shattering news that I haven't mentioned yet. And hey, look at that, Lapco with a super chat for 123. Well, guess what? Lapco, my friend, my good friend. That is the last 123 super chat you'll ever be sending me, my boy. What do you think about them apples? Huh? What do you think about them apples? I finally watched 123, and it is a classic. I have to tell you, the worst thing about that movie is the title. The title is just appallingly awful, and a number of people are saying that. But the movie is really terrific. It's not. It doesn't really. I can't say that it aged well because on some level it didn't really age super well, but there's a lot in it that I thought was really, really terrific. The thing that interested me the most about it was shot in West Berlin as the wall went up, and then they had to move to Munich to shoot the rest of it. But one of the things that was most interesting to me was getting a look at the interaction between the Russians and the Germans and the East Germans, because this was 1961 when it was shot, and the Germans had fought so hard against the Russians. There'd been so much bloodshed there between the two that seeing them cooperating was really weird and different. There's a scene where they torture this guy. So the plot is Jimmy Cagney plays this guy named McNamara, which is prescient. There's a McNamara on the way, folks, back in 1961. So be careful what you wish for. And he works for Coca-Cola, and his boss has a daughter, and his daughter marries an East German communist. And in order to save the reputation of the company and the boss is entrusted with her care. He's responsible for her. So he's going to, at the very worst case, get fired and be an international incident and all the rest of this stuff, and a big scar on the Coke brand name and so on. So he has to basically convince everybody that this young boy communist is in fact In fact, not only a capitalist, but a count, an aristocrat. Um, so seeing there's a scene where they torture this young, because the guy's he's super communist. This kid who marries this Southern American belle, who's dumb as a box of rocks, and there's a scene where they torture him, and they torture him by playing I think wasn't it teeny weeny, little bitty teeny weeny. Is it black bikini, white bikini, red bikini, little teeny red bikini? I forget what color the bikini is, but they play that song until he cracks. But anyway, there are these East Germans are torturing this guy. They get him to confess that he's an American spy. And in comes yellow polka dot bikini. Thank you, little bitty teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini. That's enough to crack this guy. Makes him thank you. Here they come, yellow polka dot bikini. And he and watching these Russians come in and tell these Germans what to do was amazing. Now, as it turns out, I probably would have watched the movie within 2 or 3 days of receiving it in the mail, if only you had told me that General Burkhalter had such a large part in the movie. Because I run the General Burkhalter International Fan Club, and General Burkhalter has a lot of lines in this movie, and that was great. There was a lot of, I mean, the chase scene is just full on farce and is a little, I don't want to say slapsticky. Everybody talks about the pace of the movie. It's a fast paced film. I don't remember you mentioning General Burkhalter. I'm sorry, Lapko, I missed that. If only that chat hadn't happened, I would have been so much poorer for lack of all of those $1.23 super chats. But yeah, he's got a lot of lines in there, and there's a cameo. I'm virtually positive it's Red Buttons, who plays an MP, and he does an impersonation of Cagney to Cagney's face. He does kind of like a, oh yeah, wise guy kind of thing. It's like it's an homage, obviously, but it's interesting. One of the other little buried Easter eggs in there, I'm sure it wasn't much of an Easter egg for people who saw the movie in 1961. I'm sure it leapt out at them like a sore thumb. But in his office, he's got a cuckoo clock, which is a kind of a MacGuffin in the movie, and on the hour, out comes, instead of a cuckoo, out comes Uncle Sam, and plays Yankee Doodle. And obviously, Yankee Doodle Dandy was probably Cagney's most famous role, where it was a George Cohan story. So that was kind of cool. The film has as a secretary, the sexism is unbelievable. I found it enormously refreshing. It's Red Buttons, yeah. They've got this secretary who's played by this woman who they call the German Marilyn Monroe. And boy, I'll tell you what, there are times when it's like, I think I'd trade our Marilyn Monroe for the German Marilyn Monroe. She was smoking. But there's lots and lots of sight gags in there, and there's a lot of stuff in there that's just really clever. And of all the things I think I'll probably remember about the movie, the one thing that is, I don't know, it's just an image. It's just an image, but it just stayed with me. They're in the car rushing to the airport, because the girl's father and mother are coming into West Berlin, and they're trying to get this guy ready, and they're trying on all these different hats, and he's got to memorize all these things, and he doesn't want to do it. He said, there's no way I'll be able to remember all these things. He's got to play this character for the father, so that Jimmy Cagney doesn't lose his job and all the rest of it. And so they not only they turn him into they can't turn him into an American because he's an East German. He's a German communist. So they decided to turn him into a German count. And there's a guy, a painter, who's hanging out the car door of the taxi, and he's upside down, and he's painting like a imperial eagle crest on the door of the car. And he's racing through the streets of West Berlin, taking all these turns, and this guy's hanging upside down, and he's painting this very elaborate and very small, only about this big, this very elaborate and very small, delicate, like imperial crest on the side of the car. And I don't know what it was about that. It just struck me as just kind of cool, man. There's one other thing about this that really kind of lit me up was it was recorded in '61. So it was recorded during that little brief 5-year window where the Soviets were way ahead of us in missile technology. So they made a couple jokes about the American space program, which I'm sure if you'd made the film any earlier than 1957, there would have been a space program. And anything after 66, you're not going to be laughing at the American space program. But the two jokes were, one of them is American Russian missiles go to Venus, American missiles go to Miami Beach, apparently fall short from Cape Kennedy or something like that. But there's one line that was really kind of great, and one of them, they're negotiating for the Coca-Cola contract with Cagney, who's the Coca-Cola guy. And they're close to a deal, but the Russians Cagney wants to sell them the syrup, and they can do the bottling. The Russians want the formula for Coca-Cola. Then Cagney goes off on how the Russians tried to steal the formula, which sounded like it really happened. I wasn't able to determine if it was the script, but it sounded like they took the Coca-Cola, because Coca-Cola was popular around the world, and the Russians wanted to make their own Coca-Cola. There was actually period called Coca-Cola diplomacy, which I want to say was in the 70s with Brezhnev, when we first started toying with the idea of putting in a McDonald's or selling Coca-Cola or a Pepsi. I think Pepsi got into the Soviet Union before Coke did. But they're about to get to this deal, and they want the formula, and Cagney says, you're not getting the formula. You tried to steal the formula. You made your own versions of Coca-Cola. The Bulgarians use it for sheep dip. That's the line. Lapco 92's got quoted the line. I was just about to quote it, and the line is verbatim. Is you may be so the Russians say, all right, fine, you can have your Coca-Cola. We're going to the moon, and Cagney says, you may be the first to get a cosmonaut on the moon, but if he wants a Coke on the way, he's going to have to come through us. That was classic. That actually made me laugh out loud. So thank you for that, Lapco. I'd never even heard of the movie before. After I watched it, I saw a couple of reviews of it on YouTube, and a number of people said it's a Billy Wilder classic that was buried for a number of reasons. First of all, it came out at Christmas. It's not really a holiday movie. Secondly, it came out right around the same time as the Cuban Missile Crisis, and people weren't in such a jolly mood for a comedy about the Russians, and two reviewers both mentioned that the title is just as generic as it possibly could be, and I think that title really hurt it rather. So anyway, if you're going to find it, I think you have to find it on DVD. Lapco 92 was kind enough to send it to me. It's been sitting here for at least 2 or 3 weeks now, I would say, and I finally did get a chance to watch it. So I'm really just really glad I was able to do that. So thank you very much, and we had a lot of fun playing with the fact that it took me practically a year or something to get to watch it. It's really worth the effort, and it's relatively short too, like all movies were in those days. It's not like you're in for a 3-hour tour. Does the DVD box say 1 hour and 49 minutes? It's actually longer than I thought. Anyway, there you go. Has Natasha seen it? No, she didn't see it. I watched it here at work, where I bought the DVD player to go watch this thing. So, anyway, Now I have to watch The Circle before 2035. I don't. Okay, we'll see. Anyway, the end of an era, and a fun era it was. And thank you again very much. I appreciate all of it, and I appreciate all the super chats and the teasing. It was really fun. Cagney is, you can just watch Cagney in just about anything. His last film, so glad you didn't waste my time. You've made my holiday season. Did Natasha have any interest in it? I was really curious what she would think. I didn't show it to her. I'm trying to think what I can do. I can take my DVD player back home and I could plug it into my home PC and watch it in there. That's in my office. There's not really a lot of chairs there, but let me look at that. I can find some way to see it. I'm sure it's called 123, and this is this is not the original cover. The original cover is 3 balloons, but it's snappy and it moves, man. It moves. So anyway, thank you very much, Lapko. It was a lot of fun, and Cagney, I loved him, and in fact, I remember when we were back in the theater department at the University of Florida, when Cagney's last film came out, which was Ragtime, and I want to say it was 1980, 81, somewhere in there, with Elizabeth McGovern, and he played the police commissioner. And there's one scene in there where there's some crooks or somebody's in his office, and Cagney just looks at the guy. He doesn't say a word. He just goes, like, "You out." And that sent our acting professor, David Shelton, over the moon. He just thought that was the best piece of business he'd ever seen, you know? Because he didn't even move his mouth. Cagney. But watching Red Buttons do that kind of, yeah, you dirty rat kind of thing. I think I saw the corner of Cagney's mouth curl up a little bit. He was facing away from the camera on that shot. Come out, you dirty, filthy, yellow-bellied rat. Top of the world, ma. Yeah. So, anyway. All right. Lots of great movies out there. Okay, anyway, enough about that. So thank you again, and that is a running joke that is finally put in the ground where it belongs. So why don't we go to our questiones del Lounge del Stratosfero. I speak better Spanish than that, just not right now. Let's see what we get. Forple Bunny's Revenge says, I only remember one scene with McGovern. I only remember one scene with Elizabeth McGovern, too, from that movie. Boy, do I ever. Let's see. I liked her very much. I thought she was great. I thought she was great in Ordinary People. I think she might have been nominated for... Was she nominated for Best Supporting Actress for that? She didn't have a whole lot to do with that. That was the first time anybody saw her. She was on the cover of either Newsweek or Time magazine she was on there with 2 other people. One of them might have been Kevin Bacon and somebody else. They're like the upcoming hot young actors. This is before the Brat Pack really hit. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Ba-ba, 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 ba. Questions for 12/19/24 Thursday. Political stream by Marusha Dark. Thank you, Marusha. Appreciate it. Let's scroll through and see what we got waiting for us here. Come on, you son of a bitch. So we got a Ray Juarez, we got a Roadrunner, we got a Capital G Geek, we got a Marusha, we got an Eric. That's it. All right. Okay, here we go. Ray Juarez. Not really a question, but just as a heads up, Bill, Steve's mic has been peaking a bit in the last few right angles. Don't know if it's on your end or his. It is. It has been, and it's on Steve's end. Let me make a note for that because I meant to tell him about it, and as usual, I spaced it. But I will do that right now. Yeah, he's badly overmodulated and badly clipped. Thank you for that. For a question, how do you think Republicans could go about locking the doors on the stuff they fixed during the next 2 years? Well, I think the short answer to that is make sure that everything that you do, all of the Make America Great Again stuff that we do, we need to do through legislation and not through executive orders, because not only do I have a problem with executive orders in the sense that they're easy to undo and they're not, that's not how the country's designed. We're not designed to be run by somebody with a pen, overriding a sixth of the economy in the case of Obamacare, and circumventing the Supreme Court and all the rest of it. That applies to Republican presidents as well as Democratic presidents. Executive orders are just dictatorship, period. I'm going to dictate a letter, I'm going to sign it, and it's going to have the power of law. So the first thing we do is make sure that everything that gets done to make America great again is legislation that has to be overturned by other legislation. I would be in favor, well, see, I have grave concerns about the Convention of the States thing. In order to get a constitutional amendment, you can either have it pass, but 2/3 of the states ratify it, or you can have the Convention of the States. And I'm always concerned about that being gamed. I have very serious concerns about it. The original Constitutional Convention had a lot of people with differing viewpoints, but they all wanted a country and they all loved America. And that's not the case anymore. I'm very concerned that we might end up with another 40 constitutional amendments, and that concerns me. But with that said, I think the chance of getting a balanced budget amendment passed is good. I think if you went to the American people and said, listen, 60 cents or 40 cents or 50 cents on the dollar, whatever it is, of every dollar you pay in taxes buys nothing. If you're a conservative, it doesn't buy you any defense. It doesn't buy you any infrastructure. If you're a liberal, it buys you no social programs. It buys you nothing. It just goes to pay the debt. So we got to stop doing this, because every year that goes by, forget about paying it back. We got to just stop making it bigger. And Colonel Angus says he's concerned about the Bill of Rights with the convention, and I am too. I'm very concerned about it. In any event, I think a balanced budget amendment has a serious chance to pass, especially if Trump gets behind it, and if Elon and Vivek can produce enough outrageous examples, and of this I have no doubt whatsoever, of money just being wasted. And it can't possibly happen without cheerleading. Can't happen without what we talked about earlier today with this electronic revolution, where you go directly to the people through Twitter and other social media networks and things like YouTube or whatever, bypass the mainstream media and make it clear to people these swine have been wasting our money for a century now, and both sides should be interested in cutting waste. The dollars that you do take in will go further for your government, you miserable progressives, and then you have to pay less taxes, you wonderful conservatives. And there you go. So the first thing I would do is to make it very hard to undo, would be to make it legislation, not executive orders, and legislation that is constructed in such a way so that it can't be overturned with one vote. I can sort of envision in my mind a series of fallback positions where, if you accomplish all these things, they overturn this one thing, but that doesn't get them anywhere near all the way to destroying the whole thing. Then they have to overturn this and overturn this and overturn this, that kind of thing. But in any event, at the very least, it has to be legislation. We've got the Congress, we've got the presidency, we got the courts, and we've got them for 2 years, and we've got a tremendous, enormous tectonic shift of momentum in this country, political momentum. So this is capital in the bank, and it's not something you want to save. You want to spend this capital now. This is what we've been saving up for. So do it. And Vorpal Bunny's Revenge says the way Congress drafts things today, the text of any amendment would be thousands of words. Back to what I said before. One item per bill, what the bill is about, clearly described in the title of the bill. You don't get to call it the Sunshine Bill or the Love America Bill or the We Think Puppies Are Great bill. It has to be about what is in it, and it cannot be any longer than the Constitution itself entire, which is 4,489 words, I think I was corrected to. So that's what I would do to lock that in as much as possible. But ultimately, rust never sleeps, and they will corrode away whatever protections you put in place unless you go to the heart of the matter, which is not the legislation or the political action. You got to go to the heart of the matter and make the case to the American people so that they realize that this is not only a moral thing to do, but it's a spiritually correct thing to do, and it's in their own self-interest. That's how you ultimately get people on your side, is you find the angle that convinces them that it's in their interest, their own interest, to agree with you. That's why capitalism is so successful, because it puts success and innovation and extra work into your own interest. Nobody's going to work extra hours on something they don't own, and I don't blame them one bit. So when you're on the clock and you don't own a percentage of the stock or the company, you clock in at 9, you clock out at 5. And if you're on the clock at low wages, you're doing your best to do as little work as possible. If there's no room for advancement and no room for ownership, or even if you do a good job at one company, you get hired at a higher rate at the next company. In a socialist country where that doesn't happen, everything's a giant bureaucracy. It doesn't matter how much work you do during the day. Then it becomes a contest to see how little work you can do. And if it turns out you can't get fired, which is generally the case for government employees, then it becomes almost a contest to see how little work you can do. It becomes, there's a line of people there waiting. Screw them, I'm on my coffee break, and if I take a little longer than I want to, then screw them. Those rich people over there, they can wait for me now. Then you get those little petty dictatorships that socialism produces. That's one thing that socialism produces a great deal of: misery and petty dictatorships, fiefdoms. Well, I'm on my break, so screw you. And I'll go as slow as I want to because I don't like you. Oh, look, turns out I left my rubber stamp on the other side of the office. I'll be back in 40 minutes. That kind of thing. Quiet quitting, says Marusha. Yeah, I don't want quiet quitters. I want highly motivated individuals. And if they paid DMV workers by the number of people they processed in a day, we'd have a much better situation at the DMV. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Crikey, here's a $60 super chat that says, "Hail Bill, best to you, Natasha, and all the Stratosphere family. Merry Christmas." What a lovely sentiment. Thank you very much. We'll be doing a show on the 23rd. That'll be Monday. That'll be our kind of Christmas show. And then we'll be back again on the 26th. So, hooray. But thank you very much for that. That's very kind of you, Crikey. I love that expression, by the way. Crikey. It's just great. Sounds great. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about there, Ray. Just make it legal, make it simple, and then sell it. Sell it. And for God's sakes, keep up this network where people like Elon and Vivek and all the rest can alert the public to what's going on, because waste is in nobody's interest except for the political class and the bureaucracy. You've got to be smart enough to play this game correctly. If you want to pay less in taxes, you want to pay fewer taxes, you have to keep the public behind that idea. And that means you got to win 51% of the vote, which means you got to win at least one progressive out of the 100 people. You got to win. If we have 50 people and they got 50 people, we have to win at least one of them if we want to keep this spending and stuff under control, which means you've got to appeal to some degree to the other side. So you simply say, listen, this cutting waste means there's more money available for your social programs, even though we're taking in less money. You could probably cut, I have no doubt whatsoever, none that you could cut the federal government in half in terms of the budget. None. And I bet you the number's closer to 75 or 80%. You could probably get the same amount of government that we get now for 20% of what we pay. And as I mentioned on Scott's right angle, which is about spending, it's not up yet. He was talking about spending cuts and, lower taxes and spending cuts. And I said, I honestly believe this, Scotty. I think it'd be easier to eliminate, as an example, I think it would be politically easier to eliminate the Department of Education than it would be to get them to accept a 20% pay cut. I genuinely believe that to be the case. I think it'd be easier to simply cut the Department of Education than it would be to get them to cut 20% of their budget. Asa Finney points out so far tonight we've discussed both pork and bean. Clever boy. I've noticed a bureaucratic response at retail stores lately and at Costco. Well, those people can be fired. We'll see. Yeah, we're lucky we don't get as much government as we pay for. I'm not saying that we should be getting as much government as we get. I'm saying this gigantic government we could pay a fifth of what we're paying and still have something this big. And then you get to the question of, well, I just think we should, like I said, I think we should just be cutting entire departments, root and branch, just chop them off. We don't need to, how do we know which to keep and what not to keep? Well, just look at the Constitution. We don't need a Department of Energy. We don't need a Department of Education. We don't need a Department of Agriculture. We don't need a Department of Commerce. We don't need a Department of Transportation. I'm not entirely sure about transportation because transportation is an interstate activity, and there is much as I hate to admit it, there is definitely a role for the FAA. It's not so much telling private pilots where they can go and not go, but clearly things like inspections and so on. I don't know what the Commerce Department does that's of any value. I think you definitely need a Department of Defense. You definitely need somebody to inspect the meat and the food and the and inspect the drugs. Their job should not be to keep drugs off the market. Their job should be to get an accurate assessment of what these medications do. I'm not a believer that all medications should be over the counter. I think that's a bit utopian. But I do think that that somebody needs to monitor the pharmaceutical companies and supervise the clinical testing, because we've seen what happens when you have a vested interest in this with the tobacco industry. When the tobacco industry denied for decades that smoking caused cancer, and then they came up with their own study showing that smoking doesn't cause cancer, and that's just human nature. And the essence of conservatism is to understand that human nature is flawed, and that utopian thinking leads to catastrophe. So we need some regulatory agencies to do things like make sure that the airplanes are being inspected, and to make sure that the meat packing is safe, and that's it. And as far as the drugs go, if somebody's got a medication out there that reduces tumors in 7% of the test subjects and has as an unwanted side effect their eyeballs falling out, I think that should be available to patients if issued by doctors who advise them fully of what the risks are. Now, I'm taking a bit of an extreme example there, but the idea that there are drugs that could have an effect on people that are being held up by the FDA for 20 years is really, really awful. It is that there's just no reason for that. You can just chop so much of this stuff. Yeah, Eric Blake wants to know what's the Department of Interior for. Well, I guess it's to manage all the land that the government owns. I don't think the government should own any land, with the notable exception of national parks. National parks are one of the most brilliant ideas. That is one of the best things the government's ever done. And if the land is in any kind of doubt at all in terms of its preservation worthiness, then make it a national park. You'd still free up 99% of the acreage that's owned by the federal government. Federal government ought to privatize all of the land that it owns and use that money to pay down the debt, because that is a volitional, non-coercive agreement. You know, you want to dedicate money to knocking down the debt, sell off federal land, and earmark that money specifically for debt reduction. Period. We are selling off assets on the market to buyers at market prices that are determined by the market. You want to buy these 300 acres out in Nevada? Boom. Yes, we need, as Colonel Angus points out, we need military test ranges, things like that. Yes, we need those things. We need national parks. And if it turns out there's a valuable wetlands that is owned by the Department of the Interior, or by the federal government, managed by the Department of Interior, then by all means, parkify that. I'm fine with that. You can call it the Southeastern Tennessee Swamp National Park or whatever. I'm not in favor of turning over natural wonders to private companies for the reasons I mentioned earlier. That just no. This belongs to everybody. Yosemite belongs to everybody. I don't want Yosemite owned by Pfizer or Boeing or whatever, even though I'm perfectly happy to admit that Pfizer and Boeing produce things of enormous value. So, and then Mauricio says DOI is also in charge of relations with Native Americans. Well, that's something that the Department of Justice can handle. That seems to me like a Department of Justice issue. We need a Department of Justice. There are federal laws and federal crimes that have to be federal crimes because I'm in favor of pushing everything down to the states that the states can take, and then everything that the states have, pushing it down to the local level if they can take it. But generally speaking, if it's Bureau of Indian Affairs or whatever, then for God's sakes, that whatever grievances or negotiations that we have with Indian tribes that need to be conducted by the federal government, do that through justice, or do it through state. Do it through state. We need a State Department. Yeah, and Steve says not for sale to any foreigner. Exactly right. We sell the land to Americans. I think that's a great restriction. I think you could sell that to the American people. I really do. Say, listen, we're paying 40 cents on the dollar that we're paying is going to this debt servicing. Let's pay down that debt by selling federal lands to people at market rates. What is adjacent acreage selling for? The private property adjacent to these federally owned lands, what's it selling for? Put it up at the market for that rate. Bring in the money. Don't let Congress dip their fingers into that pot. Just simply sell it to the American people, and make the restriction that it has to be sold to American citizens living in America. That could be some real money, you know? That could be some real money. Dave Big Booty says, this just in, President of Mexico just said she is ready to accept illegal migrants deported by President Trump. Well, good. She's the one that left them in here. That's great. Marusha says, isn't she owned by the cartels? She may be owned by the cartels, but the cartels are very powerful when murdering innocent civilians. I think the cartels are smart enough to realize that when it comes time to facing, SEAL Team 6, they're probably not as effective as they are at terrorizing people when they're going up against exquisitely armed and magnificently trained American Special Forces troops. So the cartels had better get with the program, or else the cartels are going to be out of cartel business. Because we could put an end to the cartels in a bloody weekend if we decided we really wanted to. Yeah, shake her apart then. I don't care if she shakes apart. Boom. Shake her to pieces then. Mexico has cartels. USA has Moab, says Dave Big Booty. He's right. And that ain't all. So all of this stuff, boom. Let's just do it, man. Let's do it. Okay, so we got greetings, friend William. This is from Roadrunner. Now that Gavin Newsom has declared a state of emergency in California over monkeypox or bird flu or whatever the disease du jour is, did he do that? Are you prepared to be locked down, quarantined, and otherwise have your freedoms restricted just because he can and that the clown thinks it might be fun? I don't know. Is this a hypothetical, or did he actually do that? This affects my life. Give me 1 second, please. Sorry. Was it monkeypox? State of emergency. Let's see. Oh, here's how it's put from the governor of California's office. Governor Newsom takes proactive action to strengthen robust state response to bird flu. Sorry, I just need to read this. There's nothing worse than dead air, but this. And there he is smirking into the camera with his $800 haircut. Okay, bastard. Just try it. I'll deal with it when... Okay. Well, I could join the administration. Hang on, an opportunity that I was not aware of. If you'd like to work for the Newsom administration, I've never heard that term used before. Hey, there's a construction crew with Gavin Newsom sitting there in jeans and a t-shirt on the bed of a truck, surrounded by 4 working people, all of them watching someone else work. Perfect. Perfect. What do you... this is too good to pass up here. This is from the Governor Gavin Newsom's California webpage. Take a look at this. He thinks that this is this is going to get me to join. It's on the join the administration page. Check this out. What do you notice? What's the first thing you notice about this picture? First thing I notice about the picture. Hang on a second there, YouTube. First thing I notice about this picture is ain't nobody getting no work done. I see a bunch of people sitting around looking in different directions. The black man on the front right is looking in a different direction than the guy behind him. Newsom's looking at some place further off in the horizon. Guy on the far left is looking down at the ground, and the guy on second from left is looking in a different direction than the rest of them. They're all looking in different directions. They're looking in different directions, and nobody's doing anything. California in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, right there. There you go. See? This is how you should deal with these political swine. Is just to mock them to the skies. So, yeah. And they're all way too clean. That's right. Nobody's doing any work there at all. No dirt on their work clothes. Exactly. It's all staged and artificial, just like this ridiculous D-bag is. Well, if he locks down the state, I don't see any way he can lock... Let me rephrase that. I would be surprised if he attempted to lock down the state of California without a federal lockdown in place. You know? He obviously had California locked down when free countries like free states like Texas and Florida were open. But we had the whole national mandate and all the rest of this stuff. So right now, I think it's just a toe in the water. I don't know if he's able to... let me put it to you this way. I don't think even Newsom or even California could tolerate being the only state in the union that's locked down, uh, especially since Washington and the federal government's not going to be going along with this BS this time. Uh, and leave it to Newsom to have precisely the wrong instinct on when to go full progressive. You know, this is like he's running as the anti-Trump. He's positioning himself for 2028. He's got a real problem, and that problem is that he is going to be out of the governorship in 2026. This is the same problem that DeSantis has. They've got a two now. Now DeSantis also has the J.D. Vance problem as far as the presidency is concerned. Um, Although they'd make a good combination. Um, the what does Gavin Newsom do for the year that he would be out of the governor's office and before the 26 election? I'm sorry, before the 28 election. Just so nice to have this behind me. My God, it just sometimes it just dawns on me that this election is over. You know, it's over. Just this thing has been out there coming at me for 4 years. You know, it's like, God Almighty, I'm so bloody happy to have this thing over. Especially happy to have it over the way it went down, because it went down for those bastards. It went down. He'll be out campaigning. It's not the same thing. These people have to stay in somehow. So, you know, we'll see. Here comes the vacuum cleaner. DeSantis has a short first name, part of the uniform for a good VP. That's an excellent point. Yeah, they do need to be Al's or Bob's or Dave's or Jim's or JD's or whatever the case may be. I will deal with it if it happens. I don't see it happening. Did I just close? No, I did not. But that doesn't mean he won't try it. You know, let's see. He goes on to say, or do you think that this is a blatant attempt to position himself for the 2028 election is too obvious even for the clueless citizens of California that keep electing obvious socialists? Then again, I think it was Einstein who said, never underestimate the power of stupidity of people in large groups. I think he also said, I never said 99% of the crap that people on the internet quote me as saying. Thank you for putting up with your stupid people in large groups. Of course, I'm referring to the viewers on YouTube, not the people on Twitch, of course, because that's a higher tier. You know, that's the first class seating. No, I just don't think. Thank you very much, T Mooney. I had a blast with you guys on election night too. It was a lot of fun. It was a great time. It was a. I'm really glad I had a chance to spend it with you guys and not in Tennessee. I really mean that sincerely. It was a fun night. So anyway, yeah, I think he's already saying he's trying to Trump-proof California, which wouldn't be that difficult. But I'm telling you, man, things are changing. They're definitely changing. There's big motion to the right, big motion on all levels, even out here. I didn't see a single, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, with the exception of a person who lives down the street from me, I did not see one Kamala Harris bumper sticker during the entire campaign on the road. Not one. I swear to you, that is the absolute truth. Not one. Obama stickers were everywhere. And even Biden-Harris stickers were fairly common in 2020, but not one. Not one. So, something's cooking. Moving on. Capital G Geeks question is, greetings from the swamps of Northern Virginia. All right, y'all. Very pretty country up there in Virginia. You can get a CD, DVD with your MRI images just in case you need to prove to anyone that your brain is appropriately sized. Yes, I'm heading back down there again for yet a final test, and I will pick up my DVD, my commemorative DVD when I'm there, so I can just display it. I'll just put the entire wall behind me. It's just going to be nothing but each one of the individual layers, just going to be showing it off. with arrows, and then I'll put up another set next to them with the normal size human brain in comparison. So that'll be my brain and then normal brain. This guy with such a small cerebrum is talking all the time, or whether people are listening to him. That will be the challenge that we will have going forward. You mentioned on a show prior about simulation theory. Does that explain why there are so many NPCs? I have serious doubts about the agency of at least half the people I run into. This is an actual question that I've given serious thought to. And could you bring that question, I'll deal with it briefly here, but could you bring that question back on Monday night? And I'll tell you why. I'm becoming more convinced about this simulation thing. And it gave me a really, really interesting idea for the colonies. One of the many things that I've heard that lends some credence to the simulation theory has got to do with the speed of light. All of physics are based on the speed of light. The speed of light is one of it's c in the E equals mc squared, among other things. So the speed of light is tied into the structure of the universe. It's built into the universe. But light, this is the thing that really, really struck me, and that is just how slow light is. Light is preposterously slow. It just crawls through the universe. It's like plants growing. You can't even see it unless you time lapse it. We're so used to the speed of light being instantaneous because of the insanely short distances that we're measuring. But on the scale of the universe, it is astonishingly slow, unbelievably slow. And one of the people pointed out that if you were making a simulation of the universe, that this would be a good way to keep the Sims, that'd be us, from over multiplying and spreading like a virus to the point where you couldn't run the processor anymore. In other words, the speed of light keeps us from if the simulation theory is correct, then if nobody's looking at the Andromeda Galaxy, then the Andromeda Galaxy is not rendered. It doesn't exist. When you look up on a dark sky at nighttime, you can see a smudge of light right there. If you know where to look, it's definitely visible on a dark night in the constellation Andromeda near the square of Pegasus. And you can find it by using the stars of Cassiopeia, the W, the giant W. Or is it the giant M? These are the questions that keep me awake at night. That and people vacuuming outside the door there. So, all of a sudden we get a telescope, and now the computer that runs the universe, this is the simulation theory. Now we look at the, it's a loud vacuum cleaner. Now we look at the Andromeda Galaxy with a telescope, and now the computer has to spend more time rendering. I could go out and ask him to stop, but I don't want to do that. They work very hard. They don't usually vacuum this time of night, and if it turns out they do next time, then I'll stop them. But right now, I'm just gonna let them go. So you got a telescope, a very basic telescope. Now you have to render the galaxy at higher resolution. And as you get better and better telescopes, you have to spend more and more processing time increasing the resolution of the galaxy. Now, they just released a Webb Space Telescope image of the Andromeda Galaxy, or maybe it's Hubble, but I think it's Webb. Billions and billions of pictures where you can resolve individual stars, okay? So that obviously takes more computing power, but this is the theory about the speed of light limitation. The universe has to render each star in the Milky Way, in the Andromeda Galaxy now, has to assign it a spectrum, but it doesn't even have to show the resolution of the star. It's just a point of light. It's a pixel. All it has to do is generate a pixel. If we were able to fly to the Andromeda Galaxy then it would have to resolve all of the stars and all of the planets and if we landed on those planets, then it would have to resolve all of the rocks, all of the grains of sand, all of the dust, all of that stuff would have to be rendered. It'd have to be processed. And if the world is a simulation, it doesn't matter how powerful your computer is. The more the computer has to do, the slower it's going to work. So what I thought was interesting would be, what if the physics of, this is for the colonies, because the colonies breaks one law, and it breaks the law of faster than light travel by having point-to-point stargates, meaning you build a device that does nothing but accumulate electrical charge for days or weeks, and it's aimed in a certain direction, and some distance away, a light year, let's say 1 light year away, is another one of these things, and it's aimed back at its partner back in the solar system. Right, so these two things have to be, you have to construct one here, and then you have to go out slower than light and construct one there, a light year out, and point them at each other, charge the living daylights out of these things, and then these things warp space in the direction of each other, send this amazingly powerful energy pulse that essentially rips space in half and folds space-time so that these 2 points here come together and connect like that, right? That's the best. That is that version of faster than light travel does less violence to the known laws of physics than any other example that I can think of. But how do you get to the physics of that? Well, what if it turns out that in 100 years or less, maybe it's 5 years, who knows? What if it turns out that future physicists become convinced, because of the overwhelming evidence of the unlikeliness of life on Earth and the fact that the sun is 400 times smaller, further away, and exactly 400 times larger than the moon. This is the only place of all of the observed exoplanets, and we've got to tens of thousands of them now. There's not a single one of them that has a solar eclipse. None in our solar system, and none of them have been discovered, have solar eclipses. We're the only place in the universe that has a solar eclipse. Totality with the corona. You either have an occultation where it blocks the star, or you have a transit where it goes across the star, but a perfect eclipse only exists on Earth. That alone, just that alone, is so remarkable that it gets you thinking. But what if physics 50 years from now or 5 years from now or whatever comes to believe that simulation theory is real, that we live in a simulation? Then they realize that the laws of physics are not inalterable, that they are code, that they're coded. And they start looking for where the loophole in the code is. You see where I'm going with this? They understand that the structure of matter is coded, but they're able to essentially read the code and figure out that this is a loophole, that if you can create energy that exceeds a certain value, then all bets are off. There you go. Dave Big Booty just nailed it. Jump gates are the cheat codes of the universe. God damn, that is brilliant, man. That's exactly what I was trying to get to, and I couldn't put my finger on it. That's exactly right. That physicists start looking for cheat codes in the coding structure of our physical universe. Writing that down. And so you start looking for, you can't change reality. Physical reality, quantum effects, and all this other stuff are coded into the simulation. We're in the simulation. It's a real simulation. You can't violate the laws of physics. But what if they realize, okay, what happens if we go someplace where the laws of physics have never been applied before? What if we go out, what if we come up with a parameter? What if we return a value that lies outside of the parameters? What happens then? Well, what happens if physics breaks down? In other words, I'll take credit for it, for sure, no question. what happens if you're able to I mean, for example, we know that the Big Bang, well, this is a little problematic, obviously, but if you run the universe backwards like a clock, what you end up with is a singularity, a point that is infinitely small, infinitely hot, and infinitely dense. Okay? What if we're able to use the laws of physics as they exist, and in a lab, we start aiming to get to infinitely small, infinitely hot, and infinitely dense? And what if, during the course of our experience in a lab, we exceed the density of for a microsecond, we exceed the density of the largest black hole, or we exceed the hottest temperature of the hottest quasar? What happens if we exceed the upper limit parameters of the physical universe? Should look into the video game speedrunning glitches. People grade game physics all the time. One of I've seen. I used to watch a bunch of them, and I binged watched them for a while, and that's all of these Grand Theft Auto fails. You know, just the physics fails, because they're hilarious. Some of them are just genuinely hilarious, and Grand Theft Auto has a tremendous physics engine, and sometimes it just completely glitches. And watching physics malfunction is funny. It's like slipping on a banana peel funny. Because nothing is hilarious to me like watching somebody injure themselves accidentally. That's the absolute height of hilarity for me. No, but seriously, I mean, I think that's a really cool angle to use to explain how you violate the laws of physics in this universe. Well, we violate the laws of physics because we did research designed to break the laws of physics. We took the laws of physics as a parameter set, and we decided to exceed the parameters of what nature can produce. We decided to produce something that nature cannot produce, densities or temperatures that exceed that of nature. What happens then? You would think that, well, it would just be the new highest recorded temperature. But if the universe is constructed in a simulation so that the highest recorded temperature is, as an example, coming out of a quasar, or the greatest density is the density at the center of the densest black hole, what happens if we exceed that number? Well, you would think that it would just be, well, it's just a new record. But maybe it doesn't. Maybe it breaks the laws of physics if you do that. Maybe I'm liking this better and better, man. Maybe if you exceed that density or that temperature, you just, the restrictions just stop. The code just returns an out of parameters error and reboots itself. Now, I cannot imagine getting below absolute zero, because absolute zero is a limit. It is zero temperature. But there is no upper limit on temperature. There's a lower limit on temperature, but there's no upper limit on temperature. You could say that the upper limit on temperatures is the Big Bang, but the temperatures of the Big Bang don't exist anywhere in the universe right now. So, if you were to create a situation that created a higher temperature, now this is a bloody high temperature. I mean, with our fusion reactors and fusion experiments, Castellan, very funny, that's very clever. 404 error, Earth not found. Yeah. So, yes, Star Trek broke the laws of physics all the time, but that's why I'm not Star Trek. I'm trying to do something new. I'm trying to do something that's never been seen before. Everything breaks the laws of physics. People raved about how accurate the Expanse was, and I was not impressed. I wasn't impressed at all. Planck temperature is the upper limit, right, but Planck temperature, which is the temperature of the Big Bang prior to the Big Bang, doesn't exist in this universe. There is no Planck temperature is a theoretical temperature, but Planck temperature doesn't exist. There's nothing in the universe that creates Planck temperature. Nothing is. Think of it as a pixel. Think of the laws of physics as a pixel that has a value between 0 and 255, right? That's the value that a pixel can have. And you need 8 pixels or 16-bit or 24-bit or whatever to get the number of different colors. But let's just say you've got a grayscale, and you've got 0 to 255. There's no way to get below the 0, but what if you had a pixel whose brightness was 256? Well, you say you can't have a pixel who's 256 because 255 is absolute white. That is as white as the screen gets. Right, exactly. It's as white as the screen gets. But what if you were to turn a pixel up to 250? What if you turned it up to 11? Well, the TV doesn't go that high. Yeah, but what if you did? Well, you'd have a new higher high. But what would the screen do? You see what I'm saying? I'm mostly just playing with ideas. But yeah, Castellan says JWST really upped the strain on the universe's processor. Now imagine there was no speed of light, and we could go out there and spread among the stars like wildfire, find other inhabitable planets. Then instead of having to create a simulation for 8 billion people, or 12 billion, or 20 billion, or whatever the number is on Earth, there's a limit to what you can have. We have a solar system that is not inhabitable, so the population of other planets in our solar system will never, ever come close to what the population on Earth is. You could colonize the entire solar system to the gills, but you still wouldn't come anything close to the population of Earth. You might conceivably double the population of Earth. It's almost inconceivable that you could put 8 billion people in this solar system. Now I'm talking about this solar system. There just aren't enough structures to put 8 billion people out there and get them out there and supply them, because you can't grow their own. You get the idea, right? So the speed of light keeps us inside this box that the simulation can handle. And if you find a way to get around the speed of light, then you can find other habitable planets. If I can find another habitable Earth, then I can double or triple the population of the Earth. If I can find 10 of them, I can multiply the population of the Earth by a factor of 10. Now you've got real processing problems, because this goes on exponentially. We just keep going on out there and finding these habitable planets, reproducing and doing what we do, and so on and so forth. And then you're going to run out of either computing power, or you're going to run out of souls, or you're going to run out of, hall monitors or whatever. It's good writing anyway. It's at the very least it's unlazy writing. It's not just moving a couple of levers and then oh, that's an interesting point. Kirk's Bamboo Bazooka. The coolest name in the history of the Stratosphere Lounge is Kirk's Bamboo Bazooka. You, sir, or madam, have won the internet for the year. And I don't mean the outcoming year, the year that's about to end. You won for 2025. Kirk's Bamboo Bazooka asks, maybe we need legislation to raise the speed of light limit. We'll have Congress pass an act. It's also interesting to note that if you are able to violate the laws of physics in terms of the simulation code and do these Stargate things and create that potential of letting the Sims out of their little sim house and start slowing down the processing, you may find yourself talking to the big man himself. Now, if he may squat you like an insect, I don't think he would do that. I think he'd probably be pretty damn proud of you, frankly. If it was my kid and he figured out a way to do it, I'd be pretty proud of him. I'm pretty damn proud of Captain James T. Kirk of the Starship Enterprise for having figured out a way to beat the Kobayashi Maru scenario, because he went to the computer. He went to the source code. That'd be funny, because it turns out if all this is true, then Wrath of Khan essentially predicted that James T. Kirk would understand the nature of the universe in a way that Spock and the rest of the scientists never could, just through sheer power of his personality. He didn't like to lose. I don't like to lose. So, in order to avoid losing, this human discovers the true nature of the universe. He changes the simulation code. There's something for you to think about. That's a Monday night topic, but in any event, pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, let's see, moving on. We got a Marusha Dark, 2 Marusha Darks, said Eric Blake. If I have time for doubles, this follows off my previous question. Could be the last one I got to ask for a while. We'll start with the first one anyway. Okay, Marusha Dark topic, Hawks. Let me start off by saying no, this isn't a question about Hawk to a girl and her failed crypto coin, nor is it about Ethan Hawke or Stephen Hawking. Sorry to disappoint. I'm strangely unrelieved. Bill, in the past, you've proudly self-identified as a hawk on Matter of Wars. My understanding is the term has 2 meanings. One is probably the version you think of, which is someone who believes in a strong military as a deterrent, sort of peace through strength model. Yes, that's the one I mean. But the other is someone who actively likes getting involved in wars, the neocon model, which is probably the way your enemies would choose to interpret it. Given that ambiguity, might you be prudent to pick a better term? Peacekeeper, perhaps? After all, why give them free ammo to use against me? They can call me a hawk all they want to. I kind of wish they would call me a hawk, because if they called me a hawk and accused me of being a warmonger, I'd say no. No, this is the antithesis of a warmonger. I'm not a warmonger, I'm a hawk. Hawks are peacemongers. That's the kind of conversation I would like to have. I don't want to preemptively do that. I'm peacemongering. And by the way, this isn't a bluff, you know. Being a hawk means you got to be prepared to put up or shut up when it comes time. If somebody calls your bluff, then you do have to go out there and spill some hydraulic fluid. I almost said spill some blood, but I don't believe in spilling blood, our blood. As a hawk, I believe in spilling plenty of our enemies' blood if they have been effing around, and it's time for them to find out. Then I want it over quickly, and that means brutally and quickly. But the reason I say I don't mind spilling a little hydraulic fluid is because we are at the point now where we really, with very limited exceptions, I am virtually positive we could do. We need it for its deterrent value, but the idea of a large army, I think, is obsolete. When I say not spill blood, I mean spill very, very little of it, and the blood that we do spill is not only our blood. It's not only volunteer blood. It's rabid volunteer blood. The kind of conflicts I'm in favor of, if it comes to conflict, are the kind of conflicts that are waged by submariners and fighter pilots. And those guys, you have to tie them down. They're not only willing to go, they're wanting to go. And that makes a big difference to me morally. I think you can really, really hurt adversaries without taking any serious casualties, or perhaps any casualties at all on our part. The only potential I see for real casualties would be even in a peer-to-near-peer situation, because there is no peer-to-peer for the United States. There's peer-to-near-peer. And near-peer is Russia and China. I have heard somebody do an analysis and said that the reason that Putin is threatening rattling this nuclear weapons thing is that if it ever came down to NATO forces engaging Russian forces, I mean really engaging them, establishing, I'm not talking about, can we just say that this is hypothetical? Because I'm not talking about Ukraine. Okay, let's just say in Poland, for example. Let's just say there's a Russian invasion of Poland and NATO gets involved, and we immediately establish complete air dominance, air supremacy over the theater, and then we go in there with with A-10s and stealth fighters, use our F-35s and drones and cruise missiles to knock out their air defenses. We have absolute air supremacy, and then we just go in there and work over the battlefield with basically even with A-10s and with F-35s and all of this smart munitions. The casualty ratio would be 1,000 to 1, and that's if we put troops on the ground. I don't know that we need to put troops in contact with the enemy. You have to have people on the ground to service the predators and the aircraft and the missiles and stuff. But this business of putting our guys out there to get shot at or blown up by IEDs, that's the thing about the kind of hawk I am. It's like, no, I don't believe in that at all. I don't believe in boots on the ground. I think boots on the ground is a real bad idea. Now, traditionalists will say that no military ever held territory without boots on the ground. And my attitude is, and I'm still thinking this through, I'm not trying to say I've got this completely figured out, but my inclination and my intuition tells me that we don't need to be holding territory. It's not our territory, number one. And number two, it's about attriting away enemy forces, which can be done pretty comfortably from a distance. This is what we've invested in. This is what we've spent trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars on, is the ability to go out there and hurt bad guys without taking fire ourselves. I've been playing a lot of DCS. It's what I do for relaxation. And DCS is limited, digital combat simulation. It's a terrific simulation, and the F-18 simulation that I fly has every single button and switch and knob and dial and instrument on the F-18 Legacy Hornet, the F-18C, FA-18C, is modeled. Every single switch and button in that cockpit actually does what it's supposed to do. And it is limited in terms of modernity because of national security concerns. In other words, the developers at Eagle Dynamics are not allowed to model the new F-18, the Super Hornet, either because Boeing has granted the rights to the Super Hornet to Microsoft for their flight simulator, and in some cases they're not allowed to model some things because they could be used for training purposes by the bad guys, which I find to be an absurd restriction, because the bad guys can certainly model any damn thing they want to using the existing code on DCS. But all of that to say this, for most of the time I've been playing DCS, the good guys have been limited to the AMRAAM-C. That's the Advanced Air-to-Air, Advanced Medium-Range Air-to-Air Missile. Yes. And the Charlie version has a range of effective range of about 30, 40 miles, something like that. Now, they are able to implement our best guesses of adversary technology. So the short form is, unless you're ready to get into individual mods, we've been fighting with missiles that go out to 30 or 40 miles, and they're fighting with missiles like the Meteor and some of the Chinese and Russian missiles that go out to nearly 100 miles. And it is a major frickin' disadvantage, and it's not only a disadvantage, it takes me out of the game because the current fleet has AMRAAM Deltas, which are good to about 80 miles. That really, really changes the game, the game. But recently, someone photographed underneath the wing of an F-18 Hornet a standard missile, which is what we use on there. It's an anti-air missile that belongs on ships. It's got a booster rocket beneath it, and then the top part is a standard missile, standard 2 or standard 6 or whatever. They have produced the top stage of this surface-to-air missile and hung it underneath the wing of an F-18, and they're calling it, as Steve Young points out, the AIM-174, which is probably not a coincidence, because the AIM 54 was the Phoenix missile, which was a long-range 300-mile missile that we had that did not have a very good seeker head on it because it was 300 miles, and this thing came out in the 70s, I want to say, certainly by the 80s. And so basically what it is it's got the range of the Phoenix, and it's got the seeker head of the AMRAAM, which is an excellent seeker head, and the AIM-174 is now a mod in this game, and I've been flying air-to-air missions with the AIM-74, And it's just plain not fair because that missile's good out to 100 miles. So what used to happen was I used to go up there and I had see enemy targets, and I'd have to get into their range before he's in my range. And then if we were both in range, then it just became basically a 30-mile knife fight. This is what Growling Sidewinder's content consists of. He gets into enemy range, he fires an AMRAAM, dives away, defends against that missile, survives that missile, goes up, shoots again, the other guy shoots again, and Growling Sidewinder is terrific at this. He's really skilled. I am curious to know how many times he has to record a mission before he posts it, but that's not to take anything away from the guy. He's very, very talented simulation pilot. But with the AIM-174 in the game, Marisha wants to know, wouldn't it make you a better dogfighter? You don't get to the dogfight. You're just a ball of hamburger and tinsel. The standard has been the standard missile is underneath the wing without the first stage, without the booster. The AIM, the standard missile underneath the wing is classified as the AIM-174, and it's got 174 on it, which is the 54 plus the 120. That's not a coincidence. It's flying. What I'm trying to say is this. That's what they said in Vietnam. It's true, and I was a big proponent for John Boyd and the entire fighter revolution. The idea of missiles only in the 1960s was insane. McNamara and visual identification required you to visually identify a target when all you've got on you is beyond visual range missiles. It's insanity. But that was 1966. This is 2024. The missiles actually do what they do now. And anyway, I've been flying with the AIM-174 mods, and I'll take 6 of those up in a Hornet, and it's just a turkey shoot. And that's how it should be. That's the way it should be. You know, just these. By the way, the Hornet flies like a frickin' bus. It flies. It doesn't fly like a bus. It flies like one of those. Sometimes you'll see them in India. You'll see a truck, that's so loaded that its center of gravity is 20 feet in the air. That kind of thing. It flies like a pig, because these missiles are huge. But you can put 6 of them on there and stay below gross weight. And so I fly this thing up to 30,000, 35,000 feet, and I just sit there. And I go to minimum fuel burn, and I just wait for targets. And then when those guys are inside of 80 miles, I just launch one of these things. And it's not just got the range. It's really fast. The AMRAAM probably gets up to, 2,000 knots maybe, something, 2,100. The AIM-174 goes above 4,000 knots. It just hauls ass, and it never misses. Well, not never misses, but it's a damn good missile. It's a great missile. And so I just take that up there and I just flame everybody. So what I do for recreation when I'm not here working and Natasha's not home or sleeping, usually in the morning, I go in and I either do that online or I do guns, and I've gotten to be a pretty good gunfighter. But the idea, radar guided, yes. Now, we have in development the AIM-260 missile, which is supposed to be good to 130, 140 miles, which is still in development. It's being tested, no question it's being tested. The AIM-174 is so big and so heavy, it's clearly a stopgap measure, but as a stopgap measure, it's from the Standard 6. Oh, I didn't know that. Happy coincidence, John Pershing says the AIM-174 is from the Standard 6 RIM 74. 174, yeah. So it's Sad Wings Raging says he clubs seals for recreation. Well, to each his own. We do have to do something about this out-of-control seal population, however. Just swarms of those things everywhere. And plus, what's not modeled in the game is I'm using a Legacy Hornet whose radar is good out to maybe 60, 70 miles to get a solid lock, something like that. The Super Hornets that have been flying since the 90s have ranges out to double that, and the Block 3 have ranges probably out to 200 miles. So I can't even use the missile at its maximum range because I can't get the radar lock. And it bothers me that Eagle Dynamics is not letting us fly modern American hardware, but individual people are modifying it. So I give Eagle Dynamics credit for that too. There's an F-22 mod that Growling Sidewinder likes a lot, and flying the F-22 is like you're genuinely you're like you're Superman. You simply go out there. They can't see you. They can't touch you. They know you're out there, and they may even have you located, but they can't lock you. And if on the odd chance, a 1 in 100 chance where they actually get a missile off on you, it's so easy to evade the missile because you've got a radar cross-section the size of a bumblebee, or probably smaller than that. And if the radar on the fighter jet is powerful enough to see you, the radar that's carried on the nose of the missile isn't. So the radar on the jet tracks you and keeps the missile going. It's the Raptor is beyond belief. The Raptor is just. I have said this before, and I'll say it again. I'm a big student of history, especially military history, and especially military aviation history. And there has never been this much discrepancy between the best airplane in the world and the second best airplane in the world. Never. There's never been this kind of disparity. The Raptor, I wish we had 500 of them. Now, as it turns out, we may not be needing fighters at all anymore. We may be fighting off enemy fighters with C-17 cargo airplanes. Because if you have a 200-mile missile, and he's got a 100-mile missile, then all you have to do is fly a cargo airplane up there and get 150 miles away from this guy, push these things out of the back, parachute opens, this is called Rapid Dragon, missiles come out of this crate basically, and shoot the guy down, the C-17 turns and goes away. The C-17 I'm using as an example of a big, slow, fat, ugly cargo plane, but the B-21 Raider can carry so much ordnance that it can carry a number of air-to-air missiles. You think, well, a bomber can't shoot down a fighter. That used to be true, but if you've got a 200-mile missile and they've got a 100-mile missile, and you've got a radar cross-section that's smaller than the Raptor, then you can fly. Your bomber doesn't have to maneuver. In fact, when it comes to short range, at least, and with the Sidewinder missiles, you don't even have to be pointing at the guy. The F-35 has a 360-degree sensor suite that completely is a bubble that surrounds the airplane. And they say, oh, the F-35 is not a great maneuvering airplane. It's not terrific by fourth-gen standards. But the F-35 can be pursued by an airplane and can lock the airplane behind it, put a 9er X Sidewinder off the rail, and that missile will turn around in the air and just go back and blow that guy's nose off. Oh, Mr. Wispy says, I'm a heli guy in DCS. I suck at BFM, but do a good job of putting warheads on foreheads in the Apache. The Apache's epic. I've often wanted to play with the Apache. Was in Gray Flag the first hour of the show doing just that. Oh, man. Mr. Wispy, you have to get in touch with me. We've been trying to get together a DCS squadron, which I've still got the emails on my desk that I didn't answer because I've been tied up with getting all this other stuff done. But the Apache is a lot of fun. I flew the Apache simulator when it came out for the Commodore, I think. Pretty sure it was Longbow. I think it was Longbow. I think was the name of the simulator. And man, that was fun. I've got about, in real life, I've got about 20 hours in helicopters, I guess. And that is an entirely different kind of fighting. You need air supremacy for that. But once you, Roger Ramjet said, I work with a gentleman who's an Apache pilot in Vietnam. I hate to contradict you there, but he wasn't. He was probably a Cobra pilot. We didn't have the Apache in Vietnam. I don't think we got to the Apache until the mid-'80s. But that is a monster, man. And it's a great module. The Apache module is a full fidelity module, just like the F-18. It is, every switch is modeled, and I fly the Super Hornet mod whenever I can online. Most online servers don't let you fly the Super Hornet, but when they do, I do. And I am waiting for the Super Hornet mod to have the backseater active, because if I could fly with my friend Phil in the back, I'm a good pilot. He's a great engineer. he could be locking up targets, and then I could concentrate on the flying. I bring that up because the Apache and DCS is possible to fly with a AI pilot or an AI gunner, but when you put in multi-crew, yeah, that's got to be. I would imagine flying two people in the Apache would be about as much fun as you can have. They do it in the Tomcat, but the Tomcat is pretty primitive. Ever do any formation flying in DCS? Yes, I have. Here's another name we don't see too much of, VTB Aero. I do, and I did some formation flying in real life with my Long Easy. Formation flying is challenging until it's not. It's like riding a bicycle or hovering a helicopter. It's absolutely impossible until suddenly it's not. Then it's automatic after that. I'm going to do a tutorial on how to hit the tanker, because that's the hardest thing in DCS by far, and I have figured it out. And I can teach anybody how to refuel in DCS. So, oh, you did some in EZs as well. How about that? Oh, that's great. I'm glad to see you there, VTB. We haven't seen your name before, and it's always good to get new people that are involved on things. So anyway, Marusha, I don't think I'm going to take your second one, so I'm winding down a little bit, but I do owe Eric Blake. So let me get to his, and then hopefully I answered. You could see how much of a genuine hawk I am, because I just lit up when I started talking about blowing stuff up. All right, here we go. Last question of the night, Mr. Eric M. Blake. Tonight, the case of the Dewey Decimal Deal. Hey, Bill, the medal of George Snuffleupagus now having to donate $15 million. It's actually 16 to the Trump Presidential Library. That's the current right angle that's up, by the way. Reminded me of something. In his magnum opus, The Art of the Deal, Trump recalls how Jimmy Carter stunned them into silence by having the balls to ask him for $1 million for the Carter Presidential Library, noting that it wasn't until that moment that Trump understood how Carter ever got elected in the first place. That does say something about Jimmy Carter. Well, adjusting for inflation, $1 million donation in 1980 equals a bit more than $4 million today. $15 million from Georgie would seem to the point of Trump's library being more than 3 times bigger than Jimmy's, wouldn't you say? I would think it'd be much bigger than Jimmy's. So in response to Steve bemoaning that Trump didn't push to get more, just imagine how big that presidential library could be, and thanks to a smugly loose-lipped Snuffleupagus. Eric, you're here in the comment section live. Can you do a Google search for me so I don't have to go to dead air, and find out if you can find out how much the Reagan Library costs? Because I'm very close to the Reagan Library. It's probably a 20-minute drive from here. And the Reagan Library is by far the most amazing presidential library I've ever seen. I'm sure it takes the cake. Air Force One, the entire 707, sits in the center of the atrium of the Reagan Library. And it's been my very high honor to have been a speaker at the Reagan Library on at least 3 occasions, maybe 4. The Reagan Library is just stunning. It's absolutely amazing. It's a museum is what it is, and they're constantly having exhibits there. It's out in Simi Valley, and that you turn the corner and it's $210 million in 2023 dollars. Sorry, $120 million in 2023 dollars. It was $60 million at the time. That's what you need. So that is the only Air Force One that is not located at the United States Air Force Museum. Yep. And they've got an F-14 outside too. So Trump is going to have to come up with. He's going to need. Trump's going to need $150 million, which is pocket change for him. It's going to be huge. It's good, best museum ever. All the other museums are just terrible, but this museum is going to be great. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be gold. You're going to love it. It's going to be huge. It's going to be a great museum. You'll never seen a museum like it. That stuff used to bother me. I have to admit, when I first saw him take the national stage, I really thought, geez, and that now to me it's just, it makes me, it just gives me a warm fuzzy feeling. It just to me it's just charming now. Absolutely huge. Quality that no one's ever seen before. It's wonderful. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, so George maybe put a 10% down payment down on the thing. I wonder where it's going to be. I wonder where he's going to put it. I don't think he'll put it in New York. I guess he might put it outside of Mar-a-Lago. I don't know. I don't know where he's going to put it. Anybody have any idea about that? Where he would put the huge Trump library? Biden library is going to be a porta potty that's left out on the side of the road someplace. And these modular homes, which have got nothing to do with anything other than the fact that I've seen some modular homes for sale, apparently from a Chinese company, and I want one of these things, man. These things look like habitats. They look exactly like space habitats. They got the curved side, they got the numbers on the side, completely self-contained. Here's a bedroom, and you've got your shower, and I want one. I really, really want one. Really, really, really want one of those little small container houses. I think they're cool. And no, it's not a geodesic dome. Now this, and I like the inside of geodesic domes, not so much the outside, but it's cool being in a dome. I grew up in a dome. I have a natural affinity for domes. These things are pretty small, but you could get a cluster of them, And I think that would be really fun. So, there we go. I think that I think it should be the Donald Trump Presidential Library and Casino. Musk is making tiny houses, but these things that I saw look like they really look, honest to God, like science fiction habitats, and they're gorgeous. They're really beautiful. They're really, really beautiful. Place your small house and some land in Idaho for the end of the world. Mr. Wispy, I have to tell you, there's a lot of appeal to that. I may give that some serious thought, because it's actually something I could afford, I think. The Biden Museum is in Camden, New Jersey. It should be in, I just want to see. I want to go to the Biden Museum so I can take in the sights at Corn Pop Hall. That would be, you get to see the Rusty Razor, and and then maybe they'd have like a wax display of like the hairy legs, or maybe they'd have like animatronic hairy legs that move in when the water whooshes past them, and then there could be like an area where you could have like a bunch of like mannequins, like small mannequins where you could like go down the line and sniff children's hair, and what else could you have at the? You could have my favorite memories of the presidency, and it would just be a room where you go in there and it's just static, and it's like a little theater, and you go inside and it's like you hear the voices. This is a montage of President Biden's favorite memories as president of the United States of America, and it's just, and you sit there waiting for the show to start, but the show never starts. That's the show. That's how it works. And then there would be, let's see, what else could you put in there? Glitching robot with a butt wiping machine. There would be an ice cream. There'd be an ice cream stand for sure. And then I was going to say that the bathroom would actually be the largest room in the entire building. The bathroom would have 2,000 stalls in it. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, though, that Corn Pop was a bad dude. I really wish there was a Corn Pop, because I would really like. I think I could do, if somebody could show me that there was a real Corn Pop. I think I'd make a documentary about that. I think that would be just really, really fun. Um, the gift shop will sell Depends. Yes, there'll be Depends, but they'll have the presidential logo on the seat. And the seal. There they are. There they are. It's an 8 pack seal. The Depends diapers with the seal of the President of the United States of America right there on the back. Oh God. Dave Olson, not to be confused with Dave Big Boutte, says that Corn Pop was a good dude who was trying to protect kids from a creepy lifeguard. Yeah, I think there might be something for that. Yeah, well, that'd be a fun topic to put together. I when I was doing the Crazy Joe's Discount Pardon Warehouse, I realized that with that AI, I can have conversations between Joe Biden and conversations between Biden and Trump or Biden or whatever. There's a bunch of preset voices that are trained, and then there are some others that are like a large number of others. I can have Trump talking to Stewie, for example. You get the idea. Oh, the Vorpal says the seal changes color when it's time to change them. Maybe it's one of the. No. We've got it. See, we've got it. So basically, what happens is the Depends are there's nothing on them, but if you wet the Depends, then the seal becomes visible. It's like those glasses that heat up, and once it gets wet. Last question I'll take from Kaladin Sockley. Any thoughts on Brett Cooper leaving? Yeah. It looks a little fishy. It certainly seems sudden. I really thought that they were going to make Snow White. I thought that was like scheduled. So I was really surprised to see that. And I never watched Brett. I never, I'm I'm not her audience. I'm too young and hip. But I was quite surprised, and I heard that she pulled Reagan, her replacement, her producer, pulled Reagan's all the pictures of Reagan as who was her maid of honor. Apparently, pulled all of any pictures that she had of Reagan with Brett on Instagram. Brett pulled down. So that's a little bit suspicious, I don't know. I can't, she really, John says, haven't they already shot it? They might have already shot it. Yeah, I heard she unfollowed Daily Wire, Reagan, and Boring. This is the thing about social media networks. This is why I don't deal with them, because you can tell so much about people without even having to be any kind of a hacker or anything. Yeah, I see that, Dave. I'm just not going to repeat it. Now, on the other hand, Gorn Pop was a bad dude. Yeah, it just, I thought she was really obviously one of their star players. And coming off of the, the thing with Candace, it's a little shocking, I don't see how it's in Daily Wire's interest to lose her, frankly. I can't see us. So that's. I don't know. I know that Jeremy has taken that to the company is now valued at $1 billion. It's a long, long way from where it started, because it started with nothing. We had a rental space on Tahunga that was that was before we even moved into the building on Ventura. And wow. Well, I'll tell you one thing. It was Bill and Jeremy basically doing a lot of stuff together back in 2008, 9, and 10. And then Daily Wire got to be $1 billion company, and it wasn't through my business acumen. But yeah, it's it's just I just don't see any. I just don't see any good in there. I have seen situations where people move on, and you could say, well, it's good for both of them, or whatever the case may be. But in any event, Marisha says my take is she probably wanted to spend time to start a family. It seems to me that if you're going to do that, I mean, real quick, what's the T-shirt today? It's the CBN 76. Hang on. CBN 76 USS Ronald Reagan with some crumbs from Danish pastry I was eating. That's a little bit of there. There we go. Look at that baby. She's not messing around. Anyway, yeah, it's and she's already got 350,000 subscribers or something on YouTube, and she hasn't put up any videos yet, so she's going to be fine. Candace ended up doing well after she left, and I am pretty sure Jeremy's at least 1,000 air by now. In fact, I could swear that would be practically certainty. So anyway, not a billionaire, but I bet he's got 5 figures in his bank account. I guarantee it. So anyway, I think it'd probably be good to just leave it there. I'm sorry about not getting to the second one there, Marisha. I'm about out of steam here, I think. So we've been at this for 2 hours and 15 minutes. It's long enough, I guess. I just hope the best for both of them, and Daily Wire just gets, it's just a. Marisha's got a link to the real corn pop. There really was a corn pop. No, it requires a subscription. I'm not going to subscribe for that, I'm sorry to say. All right, so I'm going to say goodnight. Yeah, I know what 5 figures is, Vorpal. I'm telling you, he's got it. He's got it. I've seen Daily Wire, and I would be amazed if he has not got 5 figures in his bank account right now. 5 figures. That ain't hay, man. Okay, so anyway, that'll do it for this edition of the Stratosphere Lounge, made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com. Somebody asked me what I wanted for Christmas. I'd like more members, so we'll get working on that in 2005. 2025. I can't even remember 2000. I was working on Sunday Morning Shootout in 2005. I vaguely remember 2005 now. So anyway, thanks very much for joining us. It's great to see everybody, and very glad I finally got a chance to see 1, 2, 3, which was really enjoyable. And I'm sorry it took me as long as it did to watch. Okay, so we'll say goodnight to our friends on YouTube first here. Thank you for joining us, YouTube. We'll see you on Monday night for our pre-Christmas show on the Stratosphere Studio, and then we'll be back again on the following Thursday on the 26th. So not going to miss any shows because of Christmas this year. And been great seeing everybody. Thanks for all of you for showing up, and we will see you